Hey guys, Sherri from the Watering Mouth here. Yeah, I have a cat here who is not letting me have any personal space. I am sharing with you a video this week that is an interview from a summit I did with Coco. It was an online summit all about empowerment, women's empowerment, how to eat healthy, move healthy, be fit, all that kind of stuff. It was really fun. Tim did a really long, awesome summit. I'm actually gonna leave a link for it down below in the description so that you can purchase the summit. There was a bunch of other interviewed experts, really fun summit, and there was some great information shared. But I was lucky enough, Tim was able to give me my portion of the interview that we did together. So I wanted to share it with you this week, just as I have shared another one of these before. So make sure you check out his full summit, but you can watch the video interview that I did. And I'm gonna roll this in just a second, but I wanted to mention to you that really soon I'm doing a 6-week live online workshop about consistency, weight loss, and mindset. We're gonna be talking all about how to create this in your life, how to have a lifetime of, from now until forever of healthy eating, whether you want to be nutritarian or not, what kind of a mindset to have, how to really deal with cravings and all that. The workshop is going to be all about this stuff. So if this topic interests you, weight loss, consistency, mindset, sign up for more information on this workshop I'm putting on really soon. If you missed the workshop, don't worry, still sign up, and I'm going to be doing this kind of stuff more, and this way I'll be able to contact you the next time I do it. Okay, so check out the summit, and I'll be back with you in just a minute after it's over.
Welcome to the summit, Alive and Align. I'm your host, Tim Coco, fitness and nutrition expert. For over 8 years, I've been helping hundreds of women transform their lives. The reason why I'm doing this summit is to just empower women to live out their full potential and understand the purpose of a healthy lifestyle so that they can get fit, lose weight, and love the shape they're in. With me, I have guest speaker Cheri. And the reason why I chose her is because of how she wants everybody to live a long, healthy life and have fun while they're doing it. So Cheri, can you just tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do?
Yeah. Hi, Tim. Thank you so much for having me on here. I really appreciate it. This is very exciting for me. I'm Cheri Alberts, and I host a YouTube channel and a website called The Watering Mouth, which is based on a very high nutrient, whole foods, plant-based kind of lifestyle. And so I talk all about that on my channel. When I started my channel, when I started my channel back in the day, it was just a generic food website, whatever I could talk about having to do with food. And then I found the book Eat to Live by Dr. Joel Fuhrman, and it changed my life. And I kind of was always looking for something in my life to show me how to eat healthfully, enjoy it, and do it forever and lose weight at the same time and sort of maintain a healthy weight. And when I read the book, if none of you have read it before, I highly suggest you start there. It's a fantastic place to start. But it's all about these wonderful high nutrient plant foods, and it has the promise of this weight loss, this longevity, disease reversal and prevention, all this great stuff. So I thought, wow, that sounds wonderful. Let me see if that is real. I was very skeptical at first. And over the last 6 years, I've gone from being a food addict, a binger with binge eating disorder and hoarding tendencies, and always being overweight, never being able to control my food, to somebody that doesn't have those issues anymore. And it's been kind of a long journey for me to figure it out, and I've made it all public on my YouTube channel. But now I've gotten to the place where I'm actually a coach for the lifestyle, and I'm a life coach as well. And I kind of put it all together so we can learn how to be our healthiest selves and get over those addictions and food cravings and things like that, and how to be able to do this for the rest of our life.
Definitely. Yeah, I love how you talk about, not just a short term. We want long term that you can sustain for the rest of your life. So that's great. So why is high nutrient food so important? Can you explain that?
Yeah, absolutely. So when I talk to somebody about the method to go from standard American dieting, this kind of regular food that we eat in the US, to high nutrient eating. When I talk about that transition, lots of times people have this just fear that they're not going to like it. It's going to taste terrible. They're going to hate it. It's going to be like eating rabbit food all day long. And they just have to live this prison for the rest of their life in order to be healthy, right? And I like to talk about how that's totally the opposite. It's completely not true. It's just that we're kind of stuck in this the food addiction stuff, and that all comes from standard American diet food: too much salt, too much oil, too much sugar, not enough whole plant foods, and actually it's the micronutrients that does it. So when I talk to someone about this lifestyle, it's this idea that you can go from where you are on standard American diet, not understanding how to lose weight, how to keep it off, how to stay healthy. You can go from that to being somebody who's vibrant and understands this lifestyle and loves all the food. You can do that transition. And there's 3 things that actually create that. So in my coaching, this is what I talk about, and this is what I found in my own life to get me to where I am. So there's 3 parts to it. The first is the high nutrient eating. So you ask why high nutrient eating is important, and that is because when we take in more nutrients, and when I say nutrients, I'm talking about the tiny little nutrients that don't have any calories in foods. So antioxidants and vitamins and minerals and things like this. I don't mean like macronutrients, fat, protein, and carbs. I mean the little stuff, all the wonderful little things that don't usually come in animal foods or things like that. So when we take in tons and tons of nutrients in our food, plus fiber, all these wonderful things, it actually starts to heal our body from the inside out. We've heard this so many times before, that food is medicine, and it really is. It is the best thing that we can put into our body to help us heal. Our bodies have an innate wisdom. They already know how to heal. It's what they do, right? You get a cut on your arm and your arm just magnificently heals itself. It's what the body does. And so when we give the body proper fuel, it knows how to heal itself. And it goes, oh, look, this damage I've had for so long from salt, sugar, oil, all these processed foods and flour and sugar and refined things, all this damage from all these years, the body goes, cool, now I have these antioxidants, now I have these vitamins and minerals and everything, now I can put this to work and heal the body. So that's exactly what it does. Over time, as you do this diet, as you take in these wonderful high nutrient foods, the body heals itself. And what's so great about healing itself is not just from like disease or anything like that, but also from food addiction and from cravings and from, messed up chemicals in the brain, the dopamine reward system, blah, blah, blah. Everything actually gets healed as we go. And that is so important to help us to stay on the lifestyle, lose the weight we want, and keep it off for life. And the other 2 parts that are the other most important things, the second one is just our environment, the sort of education we're giving ourselves, how we set up our household. Is our pantry set up right? Are we really setting ourselves up for success? Are we educating ourselves on a daily basis to take in the information and understand why we're doing it? And then are we also making sure that our family understands what we're doing? We're getting support all around us at work and all that. So I help my clients to understand the food part and also to understand how to set up their environment for success. And then the last part to me is actually like the most important part. I think it's really 60, 70, 80% of the equation. You have to eat the foods to get that benefit. You have to set up your environment to sort of get through all the advertising messages and things that we see around us. But the third part to me is the most important, and that is what happens right up here, right in the mind. It's all the thoughts and the beliefs and how we go throughout our day, either listening to or improving the thoughts that we're having. Because we can set up our house as much as we want, we can eat as much salad as we want, but if we're still craving, peanut butter cups, or we're still craving cookies or whatever, we're going to end up by the end of the day having a bunch of cookies, right? And so it's not the full effect that we could be having. So that's what my coaching does, is helps people with the food and the environment, but most of all with the thought process. What do we do at 4 p.m. when our brain starts craving and erasing all the things, all the awesome things we did earlier in the day? How do we get through that 4 p.m. crunch or the 9 p.m. crunch or wherever your biggest struggle is? How do we get through that? And that's all with our thoughts. And so I do a very specific program for my clients on how to understand cravings, how to understand food addiction, and then how to use our mind, not just external things like the food or our environment, but we use our own mind, our own skills in order to get over that and put all these things together for a lifetime program of health and our happy weight and longevity.
I love it. No, mindset is so huge with everything. Like you said, you have to believe it, and
Right.
that it's helping you. And then, you know, everything stems from the beliefs and what we tell ourselves. And I love how you set it up, like you're coaching, like, you know, because so many people do have those, 4 p.m., like, especially a lot of my clients, like, I'm good, but then that time in between lunch and dinner, like, what, I get this craving, and it's like, what do I do?
Yeah. Yeah.
What
And
if,
that's the thing. It can just throw everything off. You've done all this really great work, and then everyone always feels so defeated at that point. And it's like, oh, well, I might as well quit or something. And that to me is really the key point there, is what do you do?
definitely.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe you have some healthy habits that people can, just give us a couple healthy habits that we can do to, like, help keep that weight loss or sustain that weight loss.
Yeah. So there's a lot of habits that we can put into place in the second thing I was talking about with the environment and getting our pantries straight, changing our route to work if we always drive past Starbucks and that's a trigger for us, that kind of thing. That to me is that's the kind of dime a dozen stuff you can learn about anywhere, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you want to know how to change your environment, there's lists and stuff online. There's so much of that. And I help with my clients with that as well. But to me, the interesting part is that part in the mind. So how do you, when the chips are down, when your willpower is depleted that day, how do you sit at home when your kids' Oreos are in the cupboard, and how do you sit there and start to have those cravings, because they're natural. Cravings are just a thing that, it's a brain wiring thing that we've accustomed ourselves to, or what's the word I'm trying to think? I don't know, but we've just, we've continued these things and they keep happening in our life. And so we're going to continue to have cravings. So how do we get over that a natural thing that happens in our brain if we're constantly bombarded with these other things? And so we have to be strong enough in ourselves to actually learn how to be able to be in the presence of Oreos, right? Or like be in the presence of pizza at work, or be in the presence of junk food at the store when we have to go buy our vegetables. Like, we have to, I think the biggest, the holy grail for this whole thing, for losing the weight and for keeping it off, is learning how to tame our mind in a way, sort of, like you break a horse when you're training a horse, kind of a thing. That's what we have to kind of do with our mind. We have a wild stallion in there when we're starting out, and we have to train it to understand how to resist all of the things that are around us. So an example I like to give when I talk about this, it's like thought work, basically. So there's this idea of, if we can observe, and it's kind of a Zen meditation idea, but I take it like many steps further. So the first thing I think is really important that someone can do is they can start to observe what's happening in their mind. So first of all, our thoughts create everything in our life. And you've probably heard this before, sort of common wisdom, Zen meditation, spirituality, whatever, but our thoughts create all of our results. So when we think something like, oh, this is too hard, I crave too much, or I just don't like this food, or this diet is difficult, those thoughts create feelings of frustration or disappointment. Mm-hmm. Every feeling that we have leads to an action. Actions that come from disappointment typically are overeating, or having too much of this or whatever. And then all of our results come from those actions. So our results of overeating and having too much of whatever is going to be weight gain, or weight maintenance at least. But if we could instead find a way to call up feelings that are thoughts that are more helpful, like instead of, oh, this is terrible and I don't like this diet and this is horrible, instead maybe it's just a little micro shift of, this is hard right now, but I have faith it's going to get easier. Mm-hmm. a feeling that comes out of that thought, which is still truthful, it's still a true thought. Like, it may be difficult for you, which could be a true thought, but the thought of, but it could get easier, or I believe it will get easier, that brings up feelings of empowerment, brings up feelings of hope. And like, we're going to get to the end of this thing. When we feel hopeful, our actions are much different than when we're feeling disappointed. When we feel hopeful, we're often going to be choosing foods that, you know, support us a little bit more. And then our results in turn are going to be something more positive, like either definitely maintaining or losing a little bit. And so when we can come at things from different thought patterns and just shifting things a little bit, that can create such different results down the road. And that's really how this long-term weight maintenance and weight loss happens, that we're eating the right foods, which are supporting the internal detox, the internal kind of healing and all that. We're setting up our environment so that we are making sure we are overcoming all the things that are just kind of hitting us every day. And at the same time, we're using our thoughts to really get through the challenges that are coming up in our mind. That really, to me, is like the triple threat of making sure you stay on top of what's happening. And it also gives us personal power as well. Instead of saying, oh, it's just so hard because of work, or it's just so hard because so-and-so keeps doing this, or my husband doesn't want to eat this way, or whatever. Instead, we take that power back and we say, no, we have the ability to do that. And so that's what I do with my clients, is I help them understand how to see what their thoughts are and how to change them. So one just takeaway for this is that what I encourage people to do, just the first thing that you can do is get out a notebook, a new notebook, or a set of paper, or like a few blank pieces of paper. And every day, at the end of the day, just take like a thought download. Just everything you thought during the day about food and about what was happening. Oh, this was difficult, or this was hard, or whatever. When we start to just see on paper the actual sentences that are happening in our mind, we get so much more power just from seeing them, seeing either how negative they are or how positive they are or how neutral they are or whatever. Just kind of seeing instead of just being in this body that's serving thoughts without us even thinking about it. This way we actually get to have some power and look at it and then start to grow from there. And that's what I help my clients with at that point, is how do we start to shift those thoughts and turn them into something that serves us.
I love that. Visual is so important. You know, I know like months and months ago, last year, I was like, you know what? I've been thinking about this goal for so long, and it just kept going on in my mind for months. But then I actually wrote it down. That's when I started to, not that I wasn't working towards it before, but I couldn't see any progress. So I was kind of stuck in this like spot. But as soon as I wrote it down, like I got to my goals much quicker. Wow. And I saw like everything, like you said, when you see it down your thoughts, it's so different, because when it goes in your mind, it's just filtering through like the same thoughts, and you're not getting rid of any of them.
Exactly.
You know?
Exactly.
What about for somebody who, you might have the same advice probably, but say somebody's like, they don't have self-love and they just, you know, aren't loving their body. Like, how does somebody work towards a specific health goal if they aren't in that mindset, like self-loving themselves?
Yeah, Tim, this is actually, I think, one of the best questions anyone could ask. So thanks for asking this one, because the thing about self-love is that you have to have it the whole time to be able to keep doing it and then to maintain. And here's why. I like to think of it like in this idea of, let's say I wanted to make $1 million or something. If I go and I start to think to myself, I want to make $1 million, but I just don't think I'll ever do it. I want to make $1 million, but I'm just not strong enough, or I just don't have the right skills or whatever. You're never going to make it because all you're doing is just talking down to yourself the whole time. You're not improving. You're not actually going towards the goal. All you're doing is being stuck in this sort of self-loathing kind of place. And it's problem with that is that if you were to somehow stumble upon the correct steps to be able to make $1 million, once you made the $1 million, you would still hate yourself. So there'd be a place where you would go, I'm not going to be able to hold on to this. And then you're stuck in this scarcity and you will most likely end up losing it. It's the same exact thing with weight loss. If we don't love ourselves during the process, if we're lucky enough to figure out how to get to that goal weight, which is not likely in the first place if we don't love ourselves the whole time, if we're lucky enough to get to that place where we're at our goal weight, if we hate ourselves and we're not loving that process and we're not loving us for who we are when it's happening, we're never going to be able to hold on to it because we're always going to be doubting that we can. And so this is where that thought work really comes in. Learning how to love yourself as it's happening. And I think the biggest thing to keep in mind is it's the journey that actually creates the love. It's not the goal. And I have to say from experience, like I'm at my lifetime goal weight. I don't have any issue maintaining this. It makes me feel very good. But I have to say it doesn't feel any different than it used to when I was on the journey. And people don't understand what that means, but because they think that like when you get to this goal weight, like sure, if I look in the mirror, I put on clothes or something, I'm happy with the fact that things fit and I don't have to worry about it. But it doesn't mean anything about how I feel about myself, because you're like when you look in the mirror at yourself, you don't really see your whole person, right? Like when we look in the mirror at ourselves, we just see eyes. And then we might see a shoulder and we see a stomach, but we never see the way we see ourselves in pictures. And that's why when people see pictures of themselves, they're like, oh my gosh, how did I gain so much weight? And you're like, well, it's interesting because you've been looking at yourself in the mirror for days and days and months and years, and here you are, right? The reason that is because when we look in the mirror, we're in ourselves looking at ourselves. So oops, I just hit my desk. So we can't really exactly understand the whole picture because we're inside of the picture. And so it's the same thing with the $1 million thing or whatever. When we're on our way to this goal, getting to the $1 million or getting to the weight or whatever that is, if we're not loving ourselves the whole way, by the time we get there, we're going to be the same person we were when we used to hate ourselves as when we get there. So that goal is going to mean nothing to us. Having achieved it is going to mean nothing. So the trick is to learn how to love yourself as you go. And I always love to say, if you guys are watching this video, I already know you love yourself. If you follow Tim, if you follow me, or if you're interested in this kind of stuff, I already know you love yourself because you're interested, because you're actually putting effort into this journey. And so as you go, it gets better and better and better. And the more you sort of work on your thoughts and the more you see what's happening. And I love the journaling idea because if you journal in your first week of doing this kind of stuff, your thoughts are, I hate myself. I'll never be able to do this. I'm ugly. I'm terrible. This is horrible. If you're constantly thinking those thoughts in the beginning, and then you see a week later, just having written down those thoughts and seeing how terrible they are, if that can start to shift your thoughts even a little bit, that's where that journey starts to go up and up and up. And then by the time you lose that weight, you get to that place where you're like, oh, now I'm very secure in the love for myself. And by the time you get to that goal weight, then it's really something that you can appreciate and enjoy because you've taken all that time to work through those thoughts, starting from, I hate myself, I feel hideous, I'm not happy with myself, to, hey, I lost a little weight. This is good. I actually have some power. And then you just keep going and you get better and better. And my husband just and as you go, you're getting better and better at these sort of, looking at your thoughts and understanding what you're seeing. And that love just keeps growing and growing. And it's the journey, Tim. It is the journey that the excitement of the journey, the excitement of watching the weight fall off or the money come to you or whatever you're trying to improve, right? Maybe it's improving your relationship with your children or whatever, or your husband or something. That journey is the part that's actually the fun part. That's actually the part where you come alive and your love for yourself starts going into that goal you're going for, and you just keep proving it to yourself over and over again. And that is really what creates more and more love as you go. And then that is what creates a permanent result at the end, as if you really have strengthened all those things along the way, instead of doing something like starving yourself, or, going on a cleanse for 12 days, in the middle of like somewhere where you can't get food or something. Like that's not going to do it long term. So yeah, that's I just love the idea of the journey.
Yeah, no, that's so awesome. It's so true with the journey. And I love how you talked about, when we look in the mirror, it's so true. Like we're inside that picture. So we're not seeing the whole picture. Like, viewers, write that down. So good. And the journey, like we need to enjoy it and not, because I think a lot of the times we're so focused on, I need to get to this destination. I need to get to this destination. And we're not even focusing on the moment and enjoying it. And then, like you said, once we get to that, and we thought we were going to be at this place of happiness and joy, and like, and we weren't working on ourselves that whole time. We were just so focused on the destination. We get there and we're still feeling exactly the same. It's like,
that's exactly right.
It's so true. So I have one more question, and then you can add some stuff that I might have missed, or any value that you can add to the viewers. And you talked about the cleanse. I wanted to touch upon that. Like, for me, like, why is, so many people want that quick, effective weight loss, like get to this point. And like, for me, that's a problem. Like, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, so I actually come from a background of this. I've done these kinds of cleanses, and I have experience with failing miserably and then trying to understand why that didn't work for me, right? I've done these crazy 11, 12-day cleanses, and you end up binging afterwards, and you're so hungry and blah, blah, blah. And then you go, why am I so desperate? Like, what's happening? And looking at this with hindsight, of course, hindsight is 2020, but when we try to go for this quick fix, it's very similar to what we were just talking about, this idea that you're not actually working from the inside out. You're just chaining yourself to something for a few days and hoping that it's going to do something forever, right? Like you are handcuffing yourself to a cleanse for 10 days or something and hoping that it's going to make you a thin person for the rest of your life. That type of scarcity mentality never creates long-term results. That's not how you do it. We should never use cleanses, or we should never use things like that for weight loss. It just doesn't work because it's not getting to the root. And that's what I was talking about with the 3 things that I think are the most important. The food, healing you from the inside out, actually changing your entire environment and making it easier on yourself to understand how to make the foods and what to do in challenging situations. And then the thought work, I promise you, there is no coach in the world that is good enough at getting someone from point A to point B in 10 days. Like, that's not how it works. We have a lifetime of sort of mental patterns and thought patterns and things like that we need to heal. You can't heal it over the course of a cleanse. Cleanses don't do it. So for me, and I think and I'm sure you feel the same way, Tim, it's so important that when we are looking for that lifetime change, that we really be careful about this idea of it happening super fast. And I always like to tell my clients, like, okay, someone starts to get frustrated about, it's been 2 weeks and I've only lost 2 pounds or something. And I go, okay, hold on. Let's just readjust for a second. What's your timeline? And typically they're like, oh, I want to lose this much weight in this amount of time. And usually it's a set of months, let's say 6 months. And I'm like, okay, that's your goal. What if I told you threw out that 6-month time period and you just said 3 years instead? What if your goal was just to be done with this for the rest of your life in 3 years instead of 6 months? What if I could promise you that in 3 years, if you did all the work, you'd never gain the weight back? Would it be worth it? And the answer is always yes. Like, they don't want it to take longer, but they do want it most of all to be permanent. And so I'm not saying it's going to take 3 years. I'm just saying that sometimes we need to relax our timelines a little bit and not be so tied to this idea of quick, fast something, because that's never sustainable, because you're not actually healing all the things on the inside. So I think that's the kind of thing to think about, is like, what does it actually take to become a whole new person? Well, it's not going to happen in 10 days, right? And it takes a lot of work, and it takes a lot of sort of that work on the mind and everything we're doing. To change a lifestyle really requires a lot of commitment and ability to take your time doing it, because then you get the long-term results.
I totally agree.
Yeah, good.
Yes, 100%. I always tell my clients, like, okay, you know, what are you going to do when you get there? And they don't have any clue. Like, so I'm like, just relax, you know, 1 to 2 pounds a week. And that's it. And then you know, it's sustainable. It's not an unrealistic goal.
Yeah.
You know,
yeah. And and this is the thing, is like, when I think about that 6-month versus 3-year thing or something, would you rather have the next year, or let's say 6 months, would you rather have the next 6 months of doing the same thing you've always done, right? Like, you lose 5 pounds in 2 days, and then you gain 10 back, and then you lose 10 pounds in 4 days, and then you gain, you know, 7 of them back? Would you rather do that for 6 months and then sort of be in the same exact place you were? Or would you rather really make the changes from the inside out, all the changes that need to happen, do it slowly, and then by the end of that 6 months or the 3 years or whatever, you are permanently done and you don't ever have to do that again? To me, I think the answer is obvious there. It's the best way to go is to really understand how to do it the right way.
Yep. I totally, yeah, it's exactly. That's such a good point with the 6. People don't want to repeat that. You know, if you, that's one thing I tell too, is the same thing, sort of. It's like, all right, well, they say, oh, I've lost weight before in the past. And I'm like, well, if you're going to do it the same exact way in that time frame that you want, you just take the same steps, then you're just going to get the same result. Like,
that's right. Yeah.
That's
exactly right.
So with, if you want to add anything that the viewers could value, and then just talk about your free gift after that.
Yeah, totally. So I think, you know, in my coaching, that is really sort of the platform that we deal with. It's the food. So how can you use high nutrient food to heal the addictions, right? Because we have a lot of chemical things happening and just things inside of our body. So really important to kind of understand the food. But what's interesting enough is that you technically don't even need the food if you got the thought stuff worked out. Because what I work on with my clients is, how can we get to our goal weight without, like, how can we understand how to change our mindset and change our thoughts enough that we can be in the presence of any kind of food and not binge and not hoard and not obsess and not be addicted to it? That's kind of that beautiful thing there. And so I think it's important to just understand how important that thought part is. And so that's what I work on with my clients, kind of step by step, like, this is what you do. And then, so I think just keeping in mind those 3 things that are so important, and this idea that it's the long haul, right? It's not just the quick fix. So if anyone wants to get in touch with me, you know, I'm really easy to find online, Sherri Alberts, thewateringmouth.com. And one exciting thing I'm doing with my community right now is challenges. So I love to do these 21-day challenges. And if you're interested in learning the Eat to Live lifestyle, learning how to incorporate more whole foods, plant-based stuff, and some of this thought work, you can check out my challenges. It's easy to find out about those on my website and everything too.
Okay guys, what do you think about that interview? It was really fun to be interviewed by Tim. He asked some really great questions and we opened up some good discussion. I hope it was helpful for you. Let me know down below in the comments what you found to be the most helpful part of this interview. And I wanted to just mention again this weight loss, consistency, and mindset workshop I'm putting on, 6 weeks, online, live, tons of interaction. I would love to see you in there. If it's already done by the time you see this message, don't worry, still sign up for info, and I'll send you info the next time I do one of these, which is going to be really soon. Okay, if you're interested in that, make sure you sign up. Thank you so much for watching this interview. Make sure you check out Tim's link down below if you're interested in more interviews like this with more experts on the same topic. Check out his summit, his full summit, and that way you can get some more information like this. Hope you like this video. Sign up for the workshop if you can. See you in the next video. Love you, bye. Mwah! And Moo says bye too, sort of. Really, she says, give me dinner.